Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Alayo, can you hear me? Please, if you can hear me.
Yes, ma, I can hear you. Good morning, ma.
So where are your mates?
I think they got the wrong link. They will soon join, ma.
Okay, and I'm having interference. So let me try to see what is wrong. Alayo, can you still hear me?
Ma, yes, ma.
Yeah, but there's an interference when we start. I don't know what I'm going to do about that. You can
Okay,
see
I will inform the class rep, ma.
um there's really an interference. I don't really know what to do about it. Okay, so I have about 60 people in the room now. Uh,
at it as Premier, and this is just it, all right? When I go back, I'm going to say save. So when you click
Mute me, off your mic.
This class. Really having child is waiting and not supposed to have
Olaiwola.
All right, so I have muted everyone. I've muted everybody. So good morning, everyone. I hope it is all well with you. Later, I will unmute so that Real One can tell me if all the class reps have already given the slides and the video to all their class members. So I don't know why this thing is keeping you people in the waiting room anyway. I'm not enabling waiting room. All right, so I hope Real One is in the house. I will unmute you later to speak. So we want to go quickly to our lesson. The time is fast spent. So today we are looking at microorganisms in relation to the environment. Last week, on Tuesday, we talked about microorganisms in relation to food. And we looked at the various kind of food, how they are influenced by microorganisms. Some organisms cause spoilage, others cause infection. That is, we have spoilage organisms, we have pathogenic organisms. We talked about the sources of the contaminants. We looked at some foodborne diseases and all. So we can revise our notes. Please, if you have not obtained the slide and the video, talk to your class captain. It's also on our WhatsApp platform. I have also gone ahead to the university LMS, the learning platform, the module. I have uploaded the slides and the video therein. So there's no excuse for not obtaining your notes. So we want to move ahead to the roles of microorganisms in relation to the environment. So at the end of the lessons, you will be expected to be able to explain the roles of microorganisms in biogeochemical cycles. You should be able to talk about the importance of microorganisms in soil fertility, air quality, and water purification. You should be able to identify the positive and negative impacts of microorganisms on the environment, just like we did for the food. You should be able to describe the applications of environmental microbiology in sustainable and population control. You should be able to evaluate the role of microorganisms in climate change and potential mitigation strategies you should be able to apply. Microorganisms play a significant role in maintaining environmental balance. And the microorganisms you already know includes bacteria, fungi, viruses, algae, and protozoa. They all interact with their surroundings, influencing soil quality, water purity, air composition, and ecological health. The type of microorganisms in the environment, like I mentioned, are diverse and they occupy various ecological categories. So we have bacteria that can be found in soil, water, air, and other extreme environments. What do they do there? They participate in decomposition. They carry out nitrogen fixation and bioremediation. The fungi or fungi, they are mostly decomposers. They break down organic matter and also form mutualistic relationship with the plants. For example, the mycorrhizas. The algae are the aquatic microorganisms that contribute to oxygen production. They are the primary producers in aquatic ecosystems. The protozoa, for example, Paramecium, amoeba, they are heterotrophic microorganisms that regulate microbial populations and contribute to nutrient cycling. They regulate microbial population because they can engulf bacteria, so they help to regulate the population of microorganisms in the environment, mostly in the water. The viruses are the non-living entities that infect other organisms. They also help to control microbial dynamics and biodiversity because when viruses invade bacteria, for example, they lyse them, they kill them so they can reduce the population of bacteria in the environment. So these organisms play vital roles within the environment. So we look at the summary of the major roles they play, then we now look at it in detail, one after the other in each of the environments, such as air, water, or soil. So what are the roles of microorganisms in the environment? Microorganisms contribute to various environmental processes, such as biogeochemical cycles. Microorganisms regulate essential nutrient cycle. In your secondary school, you have learned about carbon cycle. So decomposers break down organic matter here, releasing carbon dioxide. And you know the importance of carbon dioxide to plant growth. They also carry out nitrogen cycle. If you have forgotten all these geochemical cycles that you did in secondary school, you can brush through it again. So nitrogen cycle, bacteria such as Rhizobium can fix atmospheric nitrogen. You know, nitrogen is very important for plant growth, but they are not readily available. So these organisms help to fix it from the atmosphere. So organisms like Nitrosomonas and Nitrobacter are the organisms that facilitate nitrification and denitrification processes in the environment. The sulfur cycle is also very important in the environment. Sulfur oxidizing organisms and sulfate-reducing bacteria regulate sulfur transformation in the ecosystem. So this cycling helps to regulate the amount and the quantity of all these chemicals that are needed within the environment. That is why you can see that everything is going on and we are not, the oxygen is not depleted because it is being circulated. Nitrogen is being circulated. Everything is in a circle, because we have some microorganisms that keep going, keep doing their work. The composition and waste cycling is also a part of the duty of microorganisms. They decompose organic matter and they help in nutrient cycling and soil fertility. We'll look at some of these. Bioremediation is another role that microorganisms play in the environment. Microorganisms help to detoxify pollutants, like if we have oil spills in the environment, heavy metals in the environment, and industrial wastes. Microorganisms can decompose them and they help to restore environmental health. Regarding air quality regulation, microbes degrade air pollutants. We have air pollutants like methane, sulfur, or carbon, and other hydrogen sulfide that we have in the environment that could have been harmful to living things, but microorganisms help to degrade them, while other microorganisms actually contribute to impact human and animal health negatively. We will get there. Water purification is another role that microorganisms can play. Some bacteria and fungi can degrade organic pollutants in water bodies like rivers, streams, wherever we have wastewater. Like you wonder why the lagoon is still intact. It is because even though people are putting excreta, pouring all sorts of waste, the microorganisms are continuously working to make sure that the lagoon is detoxified. So microorganisms also play a role in soil fertility and agriculture. So we will look at some of these in detail. And the summary of negative impacts of microorganisms in the environment also include, because we say despite all the benefits of microorganisms in the environment, some of the microorganisms also pose some challenges because some of them are pathogenic microorganisms. They cause diseases. Some degrade infrastructures, like the diagram you are seeing here. You can see the wall is growing some fungi. You can see, if you look around Unilag, you can also see, because it's a waterlogged area, you can see some walls. Even within some rooms, you see that there are damps all around, and after a while, you can see green, black, and some yellowish fungal growth. So they can degrade concrete, they can damage building walls. We also have some harmful algal blooms that can be as a result of excessive algal growth in water bodies. And this causes harm by releasing toxins to aquatic life like fish and to human beings. We'll talk about it in details. Methane and greenhouse gas emissions. Some microorganisms that occupy the wetlands and the landfills in their metabolic activities can release methane emission that can emit methane, and then the emission of methane in the airspace will impact climate change. Then there's contamination of drilling fluids by bacterial species. So now let's look at microorganisms in aquatic environments. So we want to look at the environments one by one. We'll look at the aquatic environment, we'll look at the soil environment, and then we'll look at the air. The aquatic environments are varied, they have different surface areas, they have different volumes, some are very deep, some are shallows, and some are found in diverse locations. So we can have rivers, flowing rivers, we can have lakes that are, they are deep, some are shallow, some are very expanded, some are small. Then we have the ponds, the streams, the swamps, the wetlands and oceans. You are in Lagos, so you should know that you have a lot of swamps and wetlands around Lagos, so you can take a look at them. The aquatic environments can range from either alkaline to extremely acidic environments. When you see a body of water, you want to know what are the physical and chemical characteristics. There are instruments to be used. You can use the pH meter, conductivity meter to check for the pH. So scientists have studied all this, so they can tell you that the aquatic environments can range from alkalinity to acidity. And the temperature can also range. from -5 to -15 degrees centigrade. Yes, some rivers, some aquatic environment can be this cold, -5 to -15 degrees centigrade at the lower range. Some can be neutral, some can be warm. We have the warms at Ikogusi in Ekiti State. If you have not visited the place, you can tell your parents to allow you to visit. You have a spring with cold water, another spring with hot water coming separately. Then they meet at some point. So you have the warm water there. That Ikogusi is a very good site to visit. So there are some water bodies that can be as hot as 121 degrees centigrade in geothermal areas. So the mixing and movement of nutrients, that is oxygen, waste products, can affect water and the marine environment. So whatever that is happening, whatever nutrient that is being dumped in the water body will determine the kind of microbial community that you have in there. For example, when you know Lagos is close to the ocean. So when you have deep oceans like that, an organic matter from the surface, when people keep pouring their waste bin, excreting, the people packing sewages goes there and dump their sewages. All this organic matter will sink to the bottom, and then you will have the bottom, you have the nutrient-rich zone where the decomposition takes place. Many of you watch YouTube, you watch film and all that. If you take time to watch things like environmental issues, you will see that scientists go under the sea and you can see everything. You will see bottles, you see cotton wool, you see nylon, you see everything below the sea level. So all those organic matter can sink and they decompose there. But gases and soluble waste produced by microorganisms in this deep zone will move up because gases will flow up, they cannot sink. And when you have these gases up above the water, it stimulates the activity of other kind of microorganisms, can also prevent the proliferation of some other microorganisms. Organisms that love that specific gas will grow. The one that cannot tolerate gases will be killed or they move to another region. So oxygen diffusion is usually limited in aquatic environment. Oxygen does not only diffuse slowly in water, but the solubility is further decreased when there's high temperature. It is difficult for oxygen to mix down the water because of many factors, like everything we dump into the water body. Again, if you have algal growth, they block the surface of the water, preventing oxygen from penetrating. And when you have that, some organisms, some fishes will die, some other organisms will die, like the anaerobe. They will keep looking for where there's no oxygen. They survive where there's no oxygen. And when there's oxygen, they move away. So the kind of gases you have in water will also determine the kind of microorganisms that you can find around. And the higher the temperature, the lower the oxygen penetration in water ecosystem. All right, so if we have limited solubility and low oxygen diffusion in water, you have anaerobic zone being formed. But if you have enough oxygen, then you have aerobic microorganisms growing faster. But when the oxygen is depleted and there's no circulation, anoxic zone is formed, leading to the growth of anaerobes within that zone. This is like an example of what goes on in the water environment, how nutrients is circulated in aquatic environments. We dumped waste. We do dump waste in water, organic matter, fishes will die, the streams and all that. And from there, nitrogen can be released, phosphorus can be released when they are decomposed. They can be released. So when they release the phytoplankton, like the syncosis, that is plant-like planktons, they take up this nitrogen and phosphorus to grow just like any other plant on land. So when they grow, they feed on, bacteria feed on this phytoplankton to survive, especially bacteria that are maybe like the green algae and all that. They feed on it. Then the protozoans, like the ciliates and the amoeba, they can engulf the bacteria. Then this protozoan also can be ingested by the zooplanktons, like the shrimps and the worms that you have in the aquatic environment. The worms and the shrimps and the small fishes can also be taken up by the top consumers in the environment, which are the fishes. And you know that fishes varies in sizes too. So the small fishes can consume the large fishes. The small fishes can be consumed by the large fishes. No, so DOM means dissolved organic matter. You have the dissolved organic matter that is being used by the bacteria, and then the particulate organic matter that's being taken up by the protozoans. So this is an example of the nutrients cycling in aquatic environment, just like the food chain in an aquatic environment. So water provides an environment for a wide variety of microorganisms to survive and function. But due to increasing industrialization and population growth, water has been adulterated. Industries, they pass their pipe to lagoon, to other water body to release waste products. Animals, humans, when you go to the lagoon, you see people excreting. On the bridge, you see people excreting. Inside the gutter, they excrete. And when it rains or when there's flooding, the rain or the flood carries all this organic matter and dump in the water body. And you know all water bodies are joined together and everything ends up in the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. So our activities and industrialization, population growth has led to a lot of waterborne diseases. So here I have 3 tables showing common waterborne disease caused by microorganisms. This is a negative role microorganism is playing in water, while they have positive role. One of it is negative role, waterborne diseases. We cannot bring all the diseases to the table here, but we'll mention some. The common ones, the ones caused by bacteria, for example, Salmonella typhi. Everybody talk about typhoid fever. Then Salmonella enteritis, gastroenteritis, a situation where somebody will have grumbling stomach, belching, feeling full, gassing, is gastroenteritis. It can sometimes be inconveniencing, especially when vomiting is involved. Then we have what is called Helicobacter pylori. Before it is called Campylobacter pylori, but the new name is Helicobacter pylori. It leads to stomach ulcer, then can lead further to chronic gastritis, and if it is not treated on time, it can cause stomach cancer. So for many people who take mixed mag, it's okay, you are having a stomach ulcer, you keep taking mixed mag. The mixed mag itself, if it is not ulcer, will provide an enabling environment for the Helicobacter to grow more. So as soon as you have signs of ulcer, it is better to do a breath test. There are several tests that can be done to know whether it is just a common peptic ulcer or the ulcer caused by this organism, Helicobacter, because it can damage the intestine. It can cause a hole and damages to the intestine. So they can determine whether it is just peptic ulcer or a kind of ulcer that is being caused by organisms called Helicobacter pylori. There's a breath test they can do in the laboratory. And when it is positive, there are antibiotics that can be used to kill or to destroy this Helicobacter pylori. Usually, if it is mild, the person can be on antibiotic for 2 weeks. If it is very serious, I have seen some very serious one that has led to perforation of intestine. In that case, the person might be on antibiotic injection for almost 6 months or so. So, but if it is too late, if it has perforated the intestine, it may lead to stomach cancer. Other ones, like, is Shigella dysentery that causes shigellosis. You have to find out how will you determine what is the differences between cholera and Shigella disease. Find out. I will ask you on Tuesday. So cholera is caused by Vibrio cholerae. That organisms look like a comma shape. Then Escherichia coli, that is the enterogenic strains. It is not all Escherichia coli that are pathogenic. They cause gastroenteritis. Then we have Campylobacter fetus that can cause gastroenteritis. All right, for the viruses, they are very, very serious organisms that cause terrible disease, very fatal diseases. Like hepatitis A virus can cause hepatitis, a disease of the liver. It destroys the liver, and if not taken care of, can cause liver cancer. Polio virus causes poliomyelitis. In those days, we have children with wasted limbs, that cannot walk properly. So, but over time, vaccine has helped to reduce the cases of polio virus. As I think last year, Nigeria was declared polio-free, but again, it surfaced in some part of the north. But polio virus is almost completely eliminated, except for the few people who just refuse to take the vaccine. Then we have the Coxsackie virus that causes gastroenteritis, especially in children. Protozoa. Giardia intestinalis is a very important protozoa in water. It causes giardiasis. You can read about these diseases if you want to find out. Then we have Entamoeba histolytica that causes amoeboid dysentery. It causes dysentery just like Shigella. Then Cryptosporidium parvum. It causes cryptosporidosis, a kind of gastroenteritis. And we have the Naegleria fowleri. It causes amoeba meningoencephalitis. This specific Naegleria fowleri is a deadly one because you don't have to ingest the water. Like Naegleria fowleri was first determined in a country where people go swimming. They go swimming in the ocean, and they discovered that some of them, maybe, when you swim, you can inhale water through your nosary or swallow some water or through the ears. They discovered that those people who swam in that particular swimming pool or river, they had brain damage. Apparently, Naegleria fowleri has penetrated through their nostril and is eating up their brain tissues. But it took long before they discovered the organism. But anyway, they discovered that Naegleria fowleri can cause amoeboic meningoencephalitis. The algae, such as Goniolax catanella, causes muscular paralysis. And for the Gambierdiscus toxicus, it can cause fish poisoning. So those of you that like to eat some fish that are not properly cooked, these are the risks in it. So let's talk about eutrophication. We are looking at the negative impacts of roles in the aquatic environment. We have talked about their positive roles, nutrient cycling, and all that. So we looked at the negative role of microorganisms in aquatic environments, in water, and we saw how they can cause waterborne diseases. And then eutrophication is another one. A process that occurs in aquatic ecosystem, particularly lakes, rivers, and coastal waters, where excess of nutrients such as nitrogen and phosphorus leads to overgrowth of plant life, like algae, which we call algal bloom. We are in UNILAG. If you stand in science and look towards the physics side, at times during the dry season, you will see a lot of algal growth on the water, to the extent that somebody that is not familiar with the environment can think it is just ordinary grass and the person might just sink inside the water. So when we have excess nutrients like dead organic matter in water, then you have excess of algae growing on top of the water, and that is what is called algal bloom. This is what we refer to as eutrophication. See, look at the diagram by the right, which may on my slide. You will not know that this is a water body because it is covered by green algae. This is as a result of excess nutrients in the water. How does eutrophication take place? Eutrophication process. How does it take place? So the first thing that will happen is the introduction of nutrients, like I said or mentioned earlier. The process of eutrophication begins with introduction of excess nutrients from human activities like excreta, agricultural runoff from our farms, sewage discharge, the use of fertilizer that will later run off into the water body, and all these nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus will act as fertilizers for the aquatic plants or aquatic organisms like algae. So they encourage them to grow. So what will happen? There will be algal blooms. The increased nutrient availability will now promote the rapid growth of algae in the water. Algae are simple plant-like organisms that can photosynthesize, and their population explodes under nutrient-rich conditions. That is why you see everywhere we turn green on the surface of the water. And when there's algal bloom, the next thing that will happen is that there will be decrease in the water clarity. You cannot see the water surface again. Everywhere is covered. There was an incident that happened in Lagos I think around 1996 or 97, or is it 2001? I can't remember now, where there was a sudden explosion at the Ikeja Army Barrack. Maybe many of you are not even born then. There was a sudden explosion at the Army Barrack. You know, they buried some explosion. So it exploded everywhere in Lagos, was shook that very day. So people were running helter-skelter. Anyway, we just stood in our house waiting, looking at what's going to happen. So people were running for their dear life. And you know, people were now running, people at, I've forgotten the name of the place, maybe it's one place like that, very close along, is it along Ogun State or wherever? It's still within Lagos State, but there's a canal there. And at that time, there was a lot of algal bloom. There were water plants on top of the canal. So people that were running from Ikeja towards the place, this around Dosumu, they called it, I can't remember right now. You can read about it, it will still be online. So they were running toward the place for safety. They thought it was grass. The people were not familiar with the environment, but it was a canal and it was a muddy one. So as people were running, they were just jumping, sinking in the canal. And it was recorded and reported in the news that over 1,000 people perished in that canal because of this issue of algal bloom and growth of water plants on the surface of the canal. So it can be very bad. So it can decrease water clarity. Apart from that danger, when the water clarity is decreased, the oxygen will not be able to penetrate the water. So at that time, you will see many of the water will become green or milky due to the abundance of algae. Then decomposition and oxygen will deplete. As soon as there's growth all over the water, oxygen will deplete in that water. So as the algae begin to die, because there's no more oxygen, and decomposition of bacteria break down the organic matter, this decomposition process consumes all the oxygen, and then you have oxygen demand in the water. And then when there's no oxygen, the aquatic organisms will begin to die. So that leads us to harm to aquatic life. So the reduced oxygen level can harm fish, crayfish, lobsters, and other aquatic organisms, leading to dead zone where oxygen levels are too low to support marine life. So some fish species may move away, leading to migration, and others, particularly those that are sensitive to low oxygen, may perish. So harm to aquatic life will lead to the process of shift in species or in species composition. Eutrophication can result in a shift in the species composition of aquatic ecosystem. Some species of algae may dominate because they can survive that environment, and the overall biodiversity of the ecosystem will decline. So eutrophication is a concern because it can disrupt the balance of aquatic ecosystem. It can lead to environmental problems like killing of fish, loss of biodiversity, degradation of water quality. The quality of the water becomes poor. No, the aesthetics of the water is poor. Nobody wants to see it. Nobody wants to stay around there. Efforts to migrate, to mitigate or reduce eutrophication often involve reducing nutrient inputs. We have to stop using fertilizers. That is why people are resorting to organic and green issues now. Because when you apply fertilizer, as soon as it rains, the flood will wash everything back into the river. So there must be proper land use practice, improved waste management treatment, not just dumping it into the water body, and responsible fertilizer use to maintain a healthier balance in aquatic ecosystem. So now we want to look at the hair microorganisms. Hair microorganisms, we are talking about environment, and environment includes air, water, and soil. So we have to look at the three. So agricultural practices. How does microorganisms get into the hair? It's through agricultural practices. When we till the ground, when we sweep, when we clean, some of you clean your benches, then you dust the duster again, you spread the microorganism. Sewage treatment, animal rendering. People are in the market, they move cow from one place to another, they kill them, then they try to take care of the animal. Those cutting and using of cutlass, hoes, and everything, fermentation process, do emit viable microorganisms into the hair. And this hair, when inhaled, can cause a lot of infectious diseases. For example, tuberculosis that can be caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Leprosy can be caused by Bacterium leprae. Whooping cough can be caused by Bordetella pertussis, and diphtheria by Corynebacterium diphtheriae. Although the use of vaccines has helped to reduce diphtheria and whooping cough in children. Acute toxic effect like allergies. Some people have allergies. Some of us, if you stay outside and it is drizzling or the humidity is high, the skin begins to itch because there are several chemicals in the hair, several gases, and everything is settling on your skin, so you are reacting to it. Sometimes it can cause cancer of the skin. So then we have indoor microflora and outdoor microflora. There are some organisms that are specific to the outdoor that are not inside the house. There are some that are within the house that are not outside, but you find either of them anywhere because people go out and come in. The indoor microflora are mostly encouraged where you have humidity in the house. When you have humidity and you see that part of your wall is wet, and then later it can start growing colors, that can release fungal spores. And when people inhale fungal spores, it can lead to asthma because of the inhalation of Aspergillus fumigatus, a kind of fungi that can cause asthma in human beings. For the outdoor microflora, it depends on the season. For dry season, you have most of the bacteria and fungi in spore, and then the temperature can also determine when the temperature is very high, microorganisms may not be able to survive. Some of them will exist in spore. But when rain begins to form, most of them, when rain begins to fall, most of them come alive. That is why you see that when rain begins to fall, people begin to sneeze, they begin to have cough and cold, because as it is raining, the spores that are in the air in the environment will settle down. The rain will push it down. So it can land on people, it can land on surfaces, your staircase and everything. So fungal spores, spore-forming bacteria, especially gram-positive bacteria, are outdoor microflora because they can resist drying during the dry season. So how do you detect microorganisms in hair? We have several equipments for detecting the presence of microorganisms in hair. But before this equipment came along, we have common method that we use, that is agar settling plate method, which we still use now. We still use it and then use the modern equipment and compare the two results. So bacteria and fungi in hair can be detected by exposing agar plates to hair. You know, you take a surface, maybe like a ladder or a stool that is like maybe 2-3 centimeters high. For example, if I want to know the kind of microorganism that is in the hair, maybe in very good place like Ikoyi, and I want to compare it with people that live around the waste bin at Ojota dump site, you know, the organisms will be different because different activities. While Ikoyi is very clean, Ojota dump site is very dirty with a lot of activity going on. Methane is being released, organic matter is being decomposing, which we have done anyway. I and my student did that as far back as 8 years ago. So you can put the agar plate above and then allow it to settle for like 5 minutes, then you incubate it, and then you check under the microscope. But nowadays we have liquid impinger, like we have the impinger, and solid impingers, devices that can be used to sample the hair. We have the spore loading Anderson sampler or the roto sampler. I have the Anderson sampler diagram here for you to see what it looks like. My PhD student is currently working on detection of microorganisms of the hair in busy area where you have maybe places like Oshodi, a lot of transportation and people and all that. So he uses one of the Anderson sampler for that work, and also the agar plate method. So this is how you can detect microorganisms in the hair. So you can use the agar plate settling method, you can use liquid impingement and solid impingement devices that can be used to count hairborne microorganisms. Then spore load in hair can be detected by the Anderson sampler or rotor sampler or the Burkhardt spore sampler. So we have mentioned the negative roles of microorganisms in the environment. So we have talked about the hair and the aquatic environment. We'll still talk about the soil. But let's look at the desirable role of microorganisms in the environment. We have mentioned some. Bioremediation, using selected genetically engineered microorganisms to clean up the environment through processing biological waste. Now we process biological waste to avoid microbial pathogenesis. I have a PhD student converting waste to biogas. I have another one converting waste to biochemicals that can be used in the industry. So instead of dumping the waste in the river or in the lagoon, we can convert the waste to value-added products. Microorganisms can also be used for the concentrating of metals and radioactive materials to avoid toxicity, to recover metals for reuse. We call this bioaccumulation. So where you have metal contaminations, especially when you go to places like Ikeja, Computer Village, wherever they dump a lot of metal and radioactive material, you can actually inject some microorganisms that can make use, you must have done that in the lab to detect the microorganisms that can take up metals. So they can take up the metal into their own system because they use the metal as substrate. So they can take it up into their system and use, and then you can recover the metal later. by crushing the organisms and then taking up your metal. This is the method that is being planned to be used for recovering of metals like gold and silver, instead of this one that people have to be digging and then the whole stuff falling on them and they being buried in whatever they are digging. So people are planning to use AI, dropping of microorganisms and then picking them up later to recover the metals. Microorganisms can also be used for waste site cleanup operations. For those in the Niger Delta area where there are oil spillages, it's been discovered that microorganisms can be used to clean up. And I have carried that experiment with one of my master's students in 2018. We used some microorganisms that we recover from the lagoon to clean up some crude oil that was collected from the Niger Delta, from Shell. Yeah. Anaerobic digester contain microorganisms adapted to grow and multiply in the absence of oxygen. This will produce methane gas that can be used in cooking or lighting. So nutrients are converted to microbial biomass, methane, and then carbon dioxide are consumed. The use of microorganisms to clean marine oil spills, jet fuels, and organohalogens in groundwater aquifer. This has been carried out severally. You can check online. So these are the uses of microorganisms in the environment. How will you control microorganisms in the air? If you have to sweep your floor, then you must suppress the dust. Our forefathers, when they want to sweep in the morning, the first thing they do is to carry some water and wet the ground thoroughly before they use the broom to sweep. When you wet the floor, the dust will not be raised. But what do we have nowadays? People want to sweep, they just carry broom and sweep, and everybody, the dust will be everywhere and everybody will be inhaling it. So you can also inactivate microorganisms by chemical agents. Inactivation of microorganisms by ultraviolet rays, and then the use of filters. You can see that during the COVID or when there's problem, they will ask all of us to use nose mask. That is the use of filters. So the organism around at that time will not be able to penetrate into your body. So let's quickly look at soil microorganisms in the remaining 3 minutes that we have. Soil microorganisms. In the soil, you can find bacteria, fungi, and algae. That does not mean you cannot find viruses and protozoa, but majorly, these are the organisms in the soil. Okay, so the organisms you will find in a particular environment is determined by the condition of that environment at that particular time, because organisms are sensitive to physicochemical conditions. So we can find actinomycetes, like Streptomyces species, nocardioforms, e.g. nocardia, mycobacteria, like Mycobacterium species, like the one that causes tuberculosis, then the coryneiforms, like Corynebacterium, Athrobacter, and the Cellulomonas. The fungi, some of which can form association, but the major fungi we have is Deuteromyces, Zygomyces, Ascomycetes, and the Oomycetes. Most of these fungi can form association with root of the plant. They are very useful. They help in nutrient uptake because fungi have an hyphae that looks like roots. So they can form relationship with the root of a plant. The association between the root of a plant and the fungi hyphae is known as mycorrhiza. So during the drought or when there's shortage of water or nutrients, they form a relationship that is mutual. So the fungi will wound its hyphae around the root of the plant, and then the fungi will grow and burrow into the soil to obtain nutrients or water and pass it to the hyphae for the plant to grow. But the fungi also obtain its own sugar or energy from the plant. That is why it is a mutualistic relationship. The few algae that we have in soil includes Chlamydomonas, chlorophyta, that is the green algae, and the Xanthophyta, the yellow-green algae. Most of the soil microorganisms get into the air. As you know, like I said, you are sweeping, you are releasing microorganisms into the air. You are carrying out agricultural activity, and that dust thing releases microorganisms that's supposed to be in the air, but in the soil, into the air. Although later, some of them will settle and get back to the surface of the soil. So this can be inhaled and can cause airborne diseases, as we have explained earlier. Some can be washed into the water body. So whatever you find in the soil can go into the air and can also go and flow into the water body, like the rivers, the lagoon, the oceans, to cause diseases. So they are interwoven. So, but what are the beneficial roles of the soil microorganisms? They help to reduce atmospheric gaseous nitrogen. They help to, reduce atmospheric gaseous nitrogen to ammonia, that is nitrogen fixation. This can occur in different organisms. For example, the free-living bacteria like Clostridium, Klebsiella, Methanococcus, and Azotobacter. Then it can also occur in bacteria living in symbiotic association with plants like the leguminous plants. For example, an organism called Rhizobium. Then it can take place in cyanobacteria, the nostoc and the anabaena. So soil microorganisms are also involved in nutrient cycle. And then I just talked about the mycorrhiza, the relationship between the plant roots and some fungi. So we also have another role that is played by bacteria, by soil microorganisms in the rhizosphere. The rhizosphere is the region surrounding the plant roots where the nutrients such as various alcohol, ethylene, sugars, and amino acid, organic acid, vitamins, the nucleotides, the polysaccharides, and enzymes are released from the root of the plant. The release of all these compounds to the roots increase microbial population, because microorganisms is like a ant. Maybe you drop a cube of sugar, some ants will run and then you see them surrounding the sugars. So also it is with microorganisms. The rhizosphere area, that is the region around the plant root, is very rich with amino acid, ethylene, sugars, vitamins, and all that. So organisms rush to that region. So the environment increases the microbial population. For example, Azotobacter, Azospirillum, Acetobacter, and Pseudomonas are involved with nitrogen fixation. So when they find themselves around this rich environment, they are able to help to fix nitrogen in the environment. Then at the rhizoplane, that is the plant root surface, they also provide unique environment for microorganisms because of the richness of the components in that region. Then we also have the plant growth promoting rhizobacteria. The rhizobacteria include the genera Pseudomonas and Acromobacter because they have the plant growth promoting power by releasing the insoluble components, maybe like sulfur, phosphorus. They are insoluble in the soil, but microorganisms like Rhizobacter or Pseudomonas or Acromobacter can solubilize this soil so that they can promote plant growth. What are the environmental influences of soil microflora? What can influence the activity or the population of microorganisms in soil? Moisture, oxygen, pH of soil. pH ranges between 2 and 9. So some may be acidic, some soil may be acidic, some may be neutral, and some may be alkaline. Different soil rate. That is why if you want to plant, you have to take sample of the plants, of the soil, to know if whatever you want to plant will grow. While many plants will grow under acidic condition, plants like blueberries will not grow under acidic condition. So you don't just look for a soil and begin to plant everything. Why is it that there are some fruits or some plants that will grow in Nigeria, but you will take them to temperate region, it will not grow? So temperature, pH, oxygen, and moisture influences the kind of microorganisms that you find in soil. So how can you apply environmental microbiology? How can you apply it? No, we have advancement in the application of environmental microbiology. That is, things are evolving, science is evolving, and many things are going on. So environmental microbiology is a very useful field. So advancements in microbiology have led to innovations that harness microbial potential for environmental sustainability. So microbial bioremediation, the use of bacteria and fungi to clean up oils, heavy metal and organic pollutants is in now. People are using it, especially that using organisms to draw metals from the soil instead of mining. Biofertilizer and biopesticide, we are running away from chemical because it is degrading the environment. So people are going for biofertilizer and biopesticide, and it is known that microorganisms, for example, Bacillus thuringiensis and Azospirillum, are involved because they can improve crop yield and they can also control pests. Another field that is upcoming now is microbial fuel cell, using bacteria to generate electricity from organic waste. Then they now use them for wastewater treatment. Microbial communities break down organic and chemical waste in sewage treatment plants. So microorganisms can be used for water treatment. Then climate change mitigation. Research into microbial carbon sequestration and methane oxidation will offer strategies to reduce greenhouse gases that are causing climate issues. So these are some advances, and in environmental microbiology, these are the reigning topics for now. So you may want to read about this, and I advise you to find out the meaning of chemotroph, phototrophs, because you need them for the environment. The food or the substrate that microorganisms take in determines whether they will grow or not. So we have chemotrophs, phototrophs, photoautotrophs, photoheterotrophs, chemoautotroph, lithotrophs, and some other one. So I will advise you to go and read and just jot them down, because you might find them in your exam. So what is a chemotroph? What is a phototroph? What are photoautotrophs? What are chemoautotrophs? What do they use to, for survival? It's just mode of feeding. So find out. So in conclusion for this lesson, microorganisms are integral to environmental health. They play major roles in nutrient cycling, pollution control, and climate regulation. So a good understanding of the functions of these microorganisms will allow for better management of natural resources and for development of sustainable environmental practices. So thank you. So I will unmute you now. So if anybody has a question.
I have a question.
Okay. Who is speaking, please?
Doris, Doris.
Please, can you speak loud? Your name?
Doris, my name is...
They've started noise again. I can't hear you, please. Can you please speak loud?
My name is...
I can't hear you. You are breaking.
Doris, Doris.
Okay, go ahead. We cannot hear you. You are breaking, please. Another person, please. You are breaking. I did not hear you at all. Any other question, please? Any question? Okay, so on the chat, somebody was saying the place is Okeafa. You are very correct. Okon Okon, you are very correct. That swarm was at Okeafa. It was at Okeafa, yeah. So people really died. Over 1,000 people died because of this issue of eutrophication. So you can see the importance of microorganisms to life. So it was at Okeafa, truly, yes. Thank you. So any other question? I can't see. Okay, let me see. You have 2 more messages. Okay, just attendant. So in the absence of no question, okay, so Doris is back. How do people that work in dump sites able to breathe well compared to non-workers? What causes this adaptation? Well, I don't understand what you meant by people that work on dump sites. Is it the, what do they call them? Those people that pick dirt all around, or those people that are working legitimately, like those who follows those vehicles that dump dirt? Either way, whether it is you call them, I've forgotten what name they call those people that pick items from the dump site, or whether you are working legitimately, the thing is, you think they have adapted, but everything they are inhaling will tell. It will tell because it is accumulating in their body, because Nigerians are not following the rule and regulation. When you see people working with waste, they are always properly kitted. They have the gown that they have to use that cover them up. They have the cap they must use, the goggle they must wear, and the nose mask and the gloves and the shoes that they must use. If you go online, check, how do people who work on waste dump sites or waste management, how should they be kitted? You will see the way they are kitted as if it was how hospital workers were working during COVID. That is the way that people that work with waste management supposed to dress. But what do we have with our people? I even see these people working with waste management authority, eating bread and akara while seated in that vehicle. You know that vehicle that carry waste, that they will be moving and then the waste will be dropping on the road. You see those men hanging on that lorry or seated by the back inside the dump site. They will still be eating their bread and puff puff. You think that nothing is happening. Yes, they are adapted a bit, but I can tell you that everything is accumulating into their system. Is it the gases, the hydrogen sulfide, the methane? Chemicals do not react immediately. While microorganisms, you have almost simultaneous reaction, because it depends on the growth rate of the organism. Some growth after 6 hours. So you can ingest food and begin to vomit on stooling after 6, 8, or 12 hours or 24 hours. It depends on the growth rate of that organism. But for the chemicals like the methane and other dangerous chemicals that people are inhaling on that dump site, it is falling on their skin. They are inhaling it, but the reaction will come 10, 20, 30 years later. One day you just discover that they are having liver problems, they have so cancer, they have lung cancer, and they are not smoking. One way or the other, it will show, it will still come up, and they will have these diseases. And most of them will die before their time. Or they will keep going to the hospital. They will be treating them with antibiotics and all that. And very soon, some of them will become antibiotic resistant. I mean, the organisms will become resistant. So they will not be able to treat them. So you cannot really say, yes, that they have really adapted. They have adapted, but the implication of what they are doing will still tell on them. All right? So I don't know if I have answered your question. Doris.
Yes, ma, I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other problem? So please, I hope everybody have last week's slide and video. If you don't have it, collect it from your class captain. If your class captain did not give you, go to the LMS, university LMS, it is there, but I don't think you need all those stress because your class captain already have them. But if you don't have it, you can also private chat me. So I'm not sure if some people are watching using the YouTube. I guess as much because today we are not up to 300 on the Zoom link. So that means many of them prefer to watch it live using the YouTube. So in the absence of no other questions, we can then call it a day. Then we'll meet again on Tuesday by the grace of God. You have to brace on Tuesday because we are going to be having up to 3 hours lecture on Tuesday because we must finish latest next week, Friday. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you, ma.
You're welcome.
Thank you, ma.
Bless you.
Thank you, ma.
Thank you, ma.
Thank God.